good afternoon again to everybody who's around. And it's been a long day, but maybe we're coming to the fruitiest part of the day. And I think the sharing from the campaigns, both from Joseph and Tom, gives a lot of possibilities for how our own participation can make a big difference. So I would like to speak, I think what I've been asked to do is to address particularly the campaign on very ambitiously called Dismantle Corporate Power. The background to this campaign, and I think it's really important in the analysis today and in the analysis that has sort of been rolled out on the trade and investment agreements, the issues of ISDS, the issues of the assault on democracy, and so on. These are the issues that are bringing us actually to a strong convergence about tackling the question of corporate power in relation to trade and investment. But I would like also to highlight that for the last, 25 years or more, affected communities across the globe have been in the forefront, actually, of this particular struggle. And, I mean, from Asia, we can recall Bhopal. More recently, we can recall Rana Plaza. Or from Africa, we can see Marikana. From Ecuador, we can see Chevron and the destruction of the Amazon. I mean, these are just a few of the very outstanding in a way, both economic and ecological crimes that transnational corporations have been putting on the planet and in the different regions of the world. And it is the struggles of communities on the ground that have kept this very much alive. And I would like to maybe just pinpoint perhaps two aspects of the question about corporate power and trade and investment. I think one of the very important things, and it was clear, I think, this afternoon from the table, that the trade and investment agreements are actually a strong, powerful, binding architecture of legitimation, legislation, and impunity for transnational corporations. That's what we have. We have actually a parallel legal structure. And in a way, in this particular moment in history, we're in a very weird situation where the only binding treaties, really, if we want to be very brutally honest, are those that are in place for transnational corporations and for the trade and investment agreements as we know them. And this is this is also a very dangerous situation. The other aspect that I would like to point out in relation to this nexus with corporate power is the question of power asymmetry. We have a few infographics over there on the wall that we've been developing with in TNI. I mean, 37 of the world's 100 largest economies are actually corporations. These corporations put some of our countries in Europe absolutely in the background, absolutely in second place. So we have Royal Dutch Shell, we have ExxonMobil, we have Walmart, BP, all of which put so many countries in the world in second place in terms of their economies and their economic power. The second aspect of that is there is a geography to corporate power. And while it's true, we don't see flagships of justice and respect for the environment emerging from the BRICS. We don't see that from China, from Brazil, from South Africa. But let's also keep things a little bit in perspective. 86.5% of transnational corporations originate and have their home in the global north, in the industrialized world. And this is quite important to keep in mind. 56 of them are in the USA, 51 are in Europe, and there are others then in Japan and so on. Where did the campaign to dismantle corporate power come from? Where did it originate? Well, as I said, affected communities who insisted that we cannot tolerate, we will not tolerate this level of impunity from the crimes of transnational corporations have, in a sense, I mean, through this challenge to social movements and to campaign networks for a major convergence around that question. So in 2000, after a year's consultation with social movements, campaign networks in the major global regions, the campaign was launched in 2012 in Rio. And this campaign was launched on the call, actually, to reclaim, it was a call for action, to reclaim people's sovereignty over economy, politics, and culture and environment. So that is the framework and this is the political framework of the campaign. And of course, it has a specific call to stop corporate impunity. There are maybe two major strategies in the campaign. One is the building of a people's treaty. I think it was mentioned by several people today, even in the first kickoff from Anu, that we need to actually change the discourse. We need actually to take the discourse, reinvent it, and put our own rethinking about treaties, about law, in the people's hands. And this is the first strategy of the campaign to dismantle corporate power. It's to build a people's treaty for economic sovereignty, political sovereignty, and therefore the people's treaty has two elements. One is a juridical element, so that people reclaim also the responsibility to articulate a new legal framework and to advance in that struggle with agreements among the peoples. The second element is actually to build the alternatives, because I think within the campaign it's clear we will not have a shift in juridical power or in the asymmetry that we currently have if we cannot shift the question of alternatives and build a base for a different economy and a different politics. The second element of the strategy actually is to tackle the question of initially a binding treaty at the UN in terms of transnational corporations. I don't know if any of you have been following this story, but it's incredible how entrenched corporate capture is at the UN. It took Ecuador, a small country, but of course which has suffered greatly at the side of corporate exploitation, and South Africa to lead in 2013 a call at the UN to establish a binding treaty. This really was like rebellion from governments inside the UN. And of course, we don't believe actually that governments will solve this problem, certainly not. But the fact that 85 governments in 2013 put this resolution to the UN really changed the equation. And in June of this year, 2014, the UN Human Rights Council voted with 20 votes for a binding treaty, 14 voted against, and 12 voted against and 11 abstained. What's really interesting here, this exactly represents the geopolitical and geostrategic issues that were raised earlier. There are 11 members of the European Union in the UN Human Rights Council. All 11 voted against. There was a very dirty battle inside the UN on this question, and it was extraordinary to actually see the collapse of European state sovereignty. There is no such thing operational in the UN anymore. There was no independent government who had any opinion. They did not express an opinion different from the European Commission on the question of transnational corporations in this day and age. Anyway, I think I'm okay. I'm on my last minute. I mean, it's going to be a very tough battle because, of course, actually what happened in June at the UN happened not only because a number of governments stuck their head out. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. They were threatened on the floor of the UN to kind of forget about this. Let's keep to the cozy consensus that all we can do with transnational corporations is voluntary guidelines. I mean, this was really extraordinary. I mean, this is the glass ceiling that corporations have given us in terms of how we see our economies developing. This is the 21st century capitalism. This is where we are at in neoliberal globalization as far as global governance is concerned. And maybe to come back to the campaign, we see the People's Treaty as very important in putting people's struggles and people's movements as the protagonists of a new regime, a new juridical and political regime. This, of course, is a long-term struggle. But as you know, as many people have said here today, we have to start where we are and with the political imagination to go forward. The second thing is that this struggle is really about, it's a political struggle. We can fire all the nice technical points we want, and we will have to do that, and it's a very challenging juridical process as well. But it is about political struggle. And in the coming year, at the end of October, we will be launching the very initial zero draft of the People's Treaty. We plan to have a consultation, at least one major consultation in every region globally. And we expect that this will generate an incredible sort of energy, enthusiasm, and determination of people to end corporate impunity and to go forward with claiming people's sovereignty in the area of economics and politics. Thank you very much.